It's time for the Kim Hammer Show, where you'll learn how your state government affects you, your family, and community. Here's Kim Hammer.
Good Saturday afternoon. Hope you're having a great day. It's a beautiful day out there after a week that had a little rain in it, so we're just blessed to have a great day today, and hopefully you're out enjoying it. Tell you what we're going to do today on the Kim Hammer Show. First of all, if you want to always keep up with what's going on, you can go up to my website, www.thekimhammershow.com, thekimhammershow.com, and you can be kept up to date with a lot of current events that I keep posted up there with the help of Elizabeth and some others. And also, you can go up there and get the replay of the shows that have been shown before. We've got our blog going on and all that other social media stuff, but you can always go up there as a source of information. What I want to do today, we're going to have in just a minute, Judge Stephanie Cassidy is going to be joining us, and then we're going to be also joined by R.J. Hawks, who's running for House seat, a newly created House seat down in Bryant, and Judge Stephanie Cassidy is running for a court position of appeals, and we'll have them in here in just a little bit. In the meantime, though, while we wait for them to get in here, I thought I'd read you a couple articles, just kind of gives you a little bit of a reflection of the Democrat mindset as it plays out across our nation and especially in D.C. So if you're drinking your coffee and it's really hot, just kind of hold it away from you because you might want to choke or spill on it when you hear some of these things. Democrat Representative Maxine Waters of California, there's your first checkoff right there, was caught on a video telling a group of homeless people to, quote, go home at a chaotic event on Friday. Waters also instructed a journalist not to cover the story, according to the report. So there you got the choking down of the First Amendment rights by a Democrat. How about that? Hundreds of homeless people showed up in Los Angeles to obtain Section 8 housing vouchers that were falsely promoted on social media. An incorrect and unofficial social media post promised vouchers for permanent subsidized housing to the homeless people on Friday. Of course, you know, if you keep up with what's going on out in California and as bad of a state of a condition that state is in, you understand why the homeless rate is growing at such an exponential rate, given their policies out there, their overtaxation, companies leaving the state because it's not a business-friendly environment, just being taken over by the immoral segment of our society that's enforcing their ways upon people out there. So, you know, you kind of understand why it is that they've got such a large homeless population out there. Fathers and Mothers Who Care, a nonprofit that offers programs that provide our homeless community with housing, jobs, showers, food, and clothing, was swamped by misinformed people who believed they could receive housing vouchers. Unfortunately, the organization could only take people's information and enter it into an emergency housing database. Homeless people, many of whom showed up at daybreak for housing assistance, were completely devastated when they discovered that they could not get a rare voucher. Some in the crowd became disgruntled and heated arguments erupted. The crowd overwhelmed Los Angeles Homeless Service Authority workers who were unable to meet more than a small fraction of the need and left while throngs of people were still waiting for help, the Los Angeles Times reported. The Housing Authority was at the gathering at the behest of Waters. So, hey, she initiated this thing. You think she'd stick around all the way through it in order to make sure that all the information that was given out was accurate, make sure that people would get help and that they would, you know, get their needs taken care of. After all, that's, you know, what Democrats in California do. When Waters was confronted by the disheartened crowd, she became snippy. Imagine that, snippy. I think you see that on basketball courts. That's the new term now. They become, no, chipper. That's what it is. Maybe she should have became chipper instead of snippy. Waters, with her face mask pulled below her chin, told the, well, that's a violation of the mask policy right there. Waters, with her face mask pulled below her chin, told a group of homeless people, why are you wearing the face mask if you pull it down below your chin? Kind of counterproductive. I want everybody to go home. The command was met with resistance and ridicule by the crowd. One woman in the crowd yelled, "We don't got no home. That's why we're here. What home we want to go to?" Let me read that again, make sure I know that's not got good English, but that's the way it's written. One woman in the crowd yelled, we don't got no home. That's why we're here. What home we going to go to? That's a good question. Waters told the crowd, nothing is going to happen here today. Well, why'd you call the meeting then? At one point, Waters became frustrated and lashed out. Imagine that. A Democrat who called a meeting together then got cornered because she couldn't deliver on what she promised. And then she got chipper with these people. She got snippy with these people. And then she got mad and told them to go home, like the problem's going to go away. And at one point, she became frustrated and lashed out. Excuse me, there's nobody in Washington who works for their people any effing, there's a word that has become all too popular, especially coming out of a woman's mouth, any effing harder than I do. I don't want to hear this. No, no, no. That's what I do every day. The money that you get thus far came from me in Washington, D.C. That's money that actually came from my great-great-great-grandkids that have not yet been born. Thank you very much, Ms. Walters, that you and some others have allowed to be printed off so that our dollar is devalued and inflation is going through the roof, but never mind that. The finger-wagging Waters scolded the crowd like, boy, there's a good one. She's coming to tell these poor homeless people and give them a good scolding instead of helping do what she was supposed to do. Anyway, the founder of the Kingdom Warriors Foundation, a nonprofit providing housing resources and mentoring programs for inner-city youth and families, said there were more than 450 people in the crowd on Friday. Race Truth Bay revealed that maybe not even 5 people got paper applications in their hand that day, and everyone else got the shaft. I bet they felt like they did get the shaft. Linda Kelly, operations director for Fathers and Mothers Who Care, told the Los Angeles Times someone got issued a voucher, their baby daddy or whoever was with them, and they posted it like, look, I got my voucher, and it went viral. Then Maxine Waters came, and it went more viral. Joyce Burnett, a 77-year-old disabled woman, said she attended the event on Friday and returned at 6:15 a.m. on Tuesday in an effort to obtain permanent housing. Maxine Waters was here, and she said to come back Tuesday with our paperwork filled out, Burnett told the Times. I have it, everything they asked for, but every time we get near the front of the line, they shut the door. They opened the door, and about 20 minutes ago, and they said they were not servicing anyone else today. That's just like a Democrat. The Times contracted Waters for comment about the chaotic event. Waters declined to address specific questions about the events in her Friday remarks during a phone call from Washington on Tuesday morning, instead saying it's a bunch of rumors and requesting that this story not be published in the Times. I'm looking at the video, and she's talking to the crowd, so if it's not an accurate story, that's not an accurate video, and videos usually don't lie. Waters allegedly attempted to discourage the outlet from covering the story. Hey, that would be First Amendment right, Heidi, I think, suppression, if I'm not mistaken, that she's not wanting a story to be published. You'll hurt yourself and community trying to put this together without background, Waters reportedly said. I don't want you to start trying to write it. You won't understand it. Like, we don't have brains to think for ourselves, Ms. Waters. Thank you very much. So that's just one example of what happens whenever it is that you turn the responsibility over to a Washington Democrat from California who goes back to her home to tell her people that she's going to take care of her, and in reality does not do it. And that is just kind of a misleading event on her part. But yet, I think it's kind of a trend that shows that this is not only happening in Washington and not only happening in California, but you got to wonder, is it happening in other parts of the country as well by those that are representing the Democrat Party? Let me take you to another article while we're waiting for our guests, and this one is in the news this past week. This one might light some of y'all up as well. Biden administration will soon reinterpret Title IX to strike down fairness in women's sports law. This little article, here's what it says. President Joe Biden's administration will soon take action to overhaul federal civil rights law and enact a new regime of Title IX rules for college athletes, according to the report. The U.S. Department of Education is writing new rules that would make discrimination based on sexual orientation and gender identification illegal under Title IX, a 1972 law that bans sex discrimination in education. The Washington Post reports. In other words, it would be illegal for states prohibiting gender male athletes or gender alter male athletes who present as female from competing against women in college athletes. Schools that receive federal funding must permit transgender athletes to compete according to their self-identified gender or risk losing funds. The new rules will be published in April, according to the report, and the changes are currently under review by the White House. The government must issue a notice of proposed rulemaking and give the public a chance to comment before they are finalized. So you need to be watching for that, and I'll try to keep that information up on the website so you can get your comments in, because they need to hear loud and clear that there's, A, nothing fair about this, and B, there's nothing right about it either, for that matter. Draft text reportedly reads, discrimination on the basis of sex includes discrimination on the basis of sex stereotypes, sex-related characteristics, including intersex traits, pregnancy or related conditions, sexual orientation, and gender identity. Biden's change to federal law, enacted via executive order, would set up a direct confrontation between the federal government and 12 Republican-run states that have passed fairness in women's sports. Laws banning male from identifying as girls or women from participating in girls and women's sports. These states include Utah, Texas, Florida, Idaho, and South Dakota. They left out Arkansas. As the article reads on, it says Republicans have argued that male athletes who present as females have biological advantages over girls, but this point is contested by the LGBTQ plus advocates. Debate has raged on this issue as transgender swimmer Leah Thomas, a man who identifies as a female, controversially won the NCAA Division I championship in the 500-yard women freestyle. Thomas swam for Penn State's men team before beginning to take cross-sex hormones and present as a female. That's all you got to do is take the pill and present as a female. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, Republican, rejected Thomas' victory as a fraud, issuing a proclamation that declares second-place finisher Emma Wyant, a Sarasota resident, the real winner. And I would agree with him that she was the real winner. Why? Because it was a women's sport. Why? Because they were all women except for this Leah. Why? Because it should have just been women in the pool, not men who identify as women. The Biden administration announced its intention to change how Title IX is interpreted last summer and began holding public hearings on proposal. The decision followed the Supreme Court's 2020 ruling in Bastock versus Clayton County, Georgia, a 6-3 ruling that said Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 protects gay and transgender workers from employment discrimination. The court majority reasoned that people being fired for being gay or transgender were being treated differently for their acts, which is legal. Because Title IX is very similar to Title VII, not the same, but very similar, the Biden administration has argued that the same reinterpretation of illegal sex discrimination should apply in education. Well, of course, the Biden administration would argue this way because we all know that the Biden administration doesn't think level. Both supporters and opponents of the changes were given an opportunity to make their case of education department hearings, the Post reported. Under Title IX, every student who wants to should be able to play and feel welcome as they are, said Amit Paley, chief executive for Trevor Project, a nonprofit focused on suicide preventions for LGBTQ plus youth. By ensuring that LGBTQ young people have access to welcoming and affirming school environment, the Department of Education can improve student mental health and well-being and ultimately save lives. Well, forget the mental health of the people who are losing to individuals that are identifying as a different sex gender and are having to experience the emotional trauma of why it is that they lost, not fair and square, but they lost because the Biden administration and the Democrats and groups are coming in and imposing themselves into an environment that was just perfectly fine and working perfectly well before they got involved in it. Forget about the mental health of those that are having to deal with this the rest of their life. We don't care about them. In contrast, Cynthia, a world champion sprinter and girls track coach, told the department that including transgender athletes in women's sport creates unfair competition. She described how her daughter came in second place in a race against a male transgender runner who played volleyball as a boy. You know, there's an example that girl has some mental health issues now because she was adversely affected by somebody that couldn't win within their own gender box, but had to go step out of their gender box and instead get involved in somebody else's world, and let's just torment them by doing something like this. My daughter trained for 2 years for the first race. This transgender athlete trained for track for 2 weeks. Now, that would tell you something right there, that if there's not an unfair advantage that after 2 weeks was able to beat somebody who'd been training all their life, tell me there's something fair about that. Stating that as a coach, she teaches girls to work hard, pays off. She asks, how can I continue to teach this when quite literally average boys can change their identity and beat top female athletes in competition? And that's a fair question, of which we all know, if you listen to this show, what the answer is. It's not fair. It's not right. It is taking the law and creating an environment that is totally unfair and disrespectful of others. With that being said, joined in studio now by R.J. Hawks. Good afternoon, R.J.
How are you, Senator?
Good. I know you're you're running in a primary, and you just running to beat the band, trying to be every place at every time. So I appreciate you taking time out to be on the Kim Hammer Show.
Well, I always enjoy, I had the opportunity in 2020 to come on this show, and you've always been good to me, and I appreciate the time.
I have been around since 2020. I just thought about that.
Yeah.
This time.
How long have you been doing the show now?
I think it'll be 3 years this June,
Yeah.
if I'm not mistaken.
So the last time I was on this show, it was kind of a first time thing.
Yeah.
I was jumping in with you when you were first starting this thing.
That's cool.
That is awesome.
I remember when. All right, let's get into it, because
Yeah.
I know you're on limited time. You got to go host an event, and I've got Stephanie Cassidy supposed to be coming in here in a minute. So tell us what district you run for. You're running for a new district, so give them the geographical boundaries.
So it's a brand new district. It's District 81 of the State House. And so if you live in Bryant, Alexander, or Shannon Hills, I would be representing you. And this is the first time that the city of Bryant has had sole representation. Before, it was 4 state reps that all met at Chick-fil-A in Bryant, and they made up that district. And so it's kind of a new thing. You know, the growth in Saline County has allowed for this to happen, and the growth in Bryant specifically. I mean, Bryant grew by 23% over the last census, and so that's why the new district was created. And now you mix in Alexander and Shannon Hills, and so that'll have one representative for it.
And so what do you want to do when you get to the State House? Let's get to the cut of it. What do you want to do when you get up there?
You know, one thing that I am very passionate about is our law enforcement. I don't know if you remember a few years back in Dallas, Texas, the shooter that was in downtown Dallas that was shooting down on people in downtown. Well, my best friend, I'm originally from East Texas, and my best friend and I had a pact that when we left high school, we were going to join the Dallas Police Department. And I ended up getting a baseball scholarship to go play at UCA, and he stayed. He went and joined the PD. Well, when that shooter opened fire, he killed my best friend.
Oh, wow.
And from that day forward, I have made it my mission to help law enforcement any way I can. And so one thing, I'm on the Bryant City Council, and during my time on council, I was able to, without raising taxes, we gave everybody that is a firefighter or a police officer in Bryant a pay raise that they have not seen in 9 years. On top of that, we got them a stepping grade to where they can continue to get a pay raise. That was something that was much needed. What I want to do when I get to the State House is I want to work on the retirement for all officers across the state. Right now, if you're an officer, it's 28 years of service that you have to have. I'd like to see that cut down to 25 years. I know states like Mississippi and Louisiana are doing the same thing. So I'd love to see that. Now, you know, some people have said, well, how the numbers work. I'm still working on that because, as you know, it's not a simple answer as far as the financials, but I think it can be done, especially with the surplus that we just saw in our state, that we could work on that to really alleviate the retirement age. We've got to give back to our law enforcement because right now our police are under attack, and we've got to make incentives for police officers to want to continue to serve the people of Arkansas. On top of that, the legislature this last session gave a $5,000 one-time payment to all officers. I think we can continue that. Maybe not 5,000, but if we could cut it to 2,500, just as an incentive to say, hey, thank you for what you're doing. I want to fight for that. And then on top of that, something that would affect Saline County specifically is the used car sales tax. So that got cut down. If you buy a vehicle between $4,000 and $10,000, you pay 3.5%. Why are we paying taxes on something that's already been taxed 1, 2, 3, 4 times. So let's cut that out at 3.5%. Let's cut that out altogether and just tax anything from $10,000 up. I had some conversations with folks. They say, well, if you cut the tax out of the used car, then it really affects the new car sales. Well, I don't agree with that, because people that are buying a vehicle between $4,000 and $10,000, they're not looking to buy anyways at the new car level. Those people may have never even owned a brand new vehicle. So let's cut that out, and you can tax it from $10,000 up on a used vehicle, but let's work for the people that are living paycheck to paycheck, that need that car, that save up for that car between $4,000 and $10,000.
What qualifies you to come up here to the House and represent the people of District 81?
Well, I think I've been in the fight for the people. I've been a city councilman now for 4 years. I've been serving people in Bryant, not so much Alexander and Shannon Hills, because that's a new area, but I've been doing it for 4 years now. I've been fighting for people at the local level to, whether it be storm drain issues. I mean, I know those are local things, but I've already been working for people in Bryant, and now that this is a Bryant, Alexander, and Shannon Hills district, I think that's what qualifies me.
All right. This isn't your first run.
It's not.
So
No.
tell about it.
So in 2020, I ran against Representative Keith Brooks, who is now a representative, who has become a dear friend of mine. He and we ran a competitive race. We did our own thing. It's probably the only race in the state, Senator, that we didn't badmouth one another. I ran my race, he ran his, and we fought it out to the end. And so, on election night in 2020, I got a phone call from the governor at 11:30 at night that said, and that, by the way, the district at the time was split between Pulaski County and Saline County. Governor calls, says, "Hey, congratulations, you won." I said, "Do you know something I don't know? Because my people say we haven't won yet." He said, "Well," and
Oops.
so on and so forth. And so, long story short, I lost by 23 votes. And I won Saline County. So the district that I'm in right now, all those people were voting for me then, right? Every precinct that is in this new district was in 31 when I ran in 2020. I won that 70-30 in Saline County. And I'm not trying to brag. Facts are facts. Where I lost was Chenal, and I lost Lake Norrell. Those were the areas that I lost. And so, I just wanted to give it another shot. I wanted to show that, I want to continue to serve the people of Saline County, the people of Bryant, and we're going to give it another go.
I do want to give you and Keith kudos, because you guys ran a clean race, and it's kind of like when I ran and Lamont Cornwell beat me.
Mm-hmm.
Out of that, we became good friends.
Yeah.
I'm glad that you and Keith have become good friends as well. And I know Keith has, committed to help you. And Keith is just that kind of nature of a person. He'll help anybody. And so that's a good thing.
Well, real quick on that point, he was the day after I announced, he called me and he says, "You're not even asking." He said, "I'm just going to do it." He said, "I told my wife, I would never endorse a candidate," he said, "except for if it was you." And so he endorsed me the second day after I announced. And, the beauty of after I lost, the next day after the recount, he calls me and says, "Hey, will you meet me at my office?" And we sat for 4 hours and ate pizza and talked about what we would do and what I would have done. And so just a great, great guy. And I'm looking forward to serving with him in the legislature.
Very good. What do you think people need to know about you that we haven't covered so far? What would you want to tell them?
I'm just a passionate guy. I'm a guy that Bryant is my home. I'm originally from East Texas, but I've lived in Bryant for 10 years now. And I've seen Bryant grow over the last 10 years. I've seen the eastern part of Saline County grow. And I think that we've got so much potential in Saline County to really make an impact at the state level. We can get business. There's no reason why the Tractor Supplies of the world or the Sig Sawyers of the world can't come to Bryant. We've got places for that to happen. We've got places in Saline County for that to happen. And look, I want to be part of that. I want to be part of making Saline County, bigger and better than what it already is. It's already the second fastest growing county in the state of Arkansas. And there's a reason why people love the county. They love Bryant. They love Benton. They love the area. And I just want to be a part of that. All
right, tell you what we got to do. I got to take a break, but I'm going to ask you one question when we come back, and then we're going to let you go because you got an event to get to, and we're going to have we have in studio now Judge Stephanie Cassidy and her bodyguard, which is her husband, Ken. Glad to have you all in the studio. Here's the question I want to ask you when I come back. I started off the show talking about Maxine Waters and, about that debacle where she went out there and said, hey, y'all are going to get free housing, then she couldn't deliver, go figure. And then also about Biden's administration trying to reinterpret the Title IX to strike down the fairness in women's sports law, which we were able to pass that law. I think Missy Irvin carried that bill. We were able to pass that bill here in Arkansas as well. As a state legislator, we battle the federal government on issues. What's going to be your approach, your position, your philosophy when it comes to dealing with these issues that are on a national platform, but they are coming to a state near you? You'll answer that question when we come back. Come back to the Kim Hammer Show here on 101.1 FM, The Answer. Welcome back to the Kim Hammer Show on a beautiful Saturday afternoon. Hope you're having a great weekend. And we have in studio on the first part of the segment, R.J. Hawks, who's running for District 81 down in Saline County, which is primarily, if not all of Bryant, Shannon Hills, a little bit of Alexander.
Yeah.
Am I right on that?
Yep.
Okay. And so I got a question for you to finish up on, and then we're going to move over here to Judge Stephanie Cassidy. So the question I asked you before is we do battle with the federal government on issues such as what I opened up the show on today. And what will be your position when it comes to these controversial issues where the federal government is trying to overreach into state business and on issues such as, like what Maxine Waters did about promising something, not being able to deliver it. And then like on the Biden administration with reinterpreting Title IX to strike down the fairness in women's sports laws.
Well, I think first off, you've got to take a common sense approach at it and what's best for constituents in our districts, right? I think that at the end of the day, we don't serve us; we serve the people in our districts, and so I think you've got to know your district, which I feel like I do. But most importantly, I think you've got to take a constitutional approach to it. If it is something that does not go with what we believe in, as far as the Constitution is concerned, as far as if it doesn't align with the Constitution, then I don't think that we need to allow that in Arkansas. I look at, for example, when the Biden administration tried to pass down vaccine mandates for employers of 100 or more, and and we saw later with the Supreme Court that was not legally obtainable. We've got to continue to fight for the rights of Arkansans based on the Constitution. If we stray from that, then that's where we as a society, we as a legislature, we go wrong, because that's not what our founding fathers that they wanted us to do. And so if we can stay as in tune with the Constitution, then we're going to be okay.
Fair enough. All right. You've been listening on the Kim Hammer Show to R.J. Hawks, running for the House of Representatives seat in the newly created District 81 down in Saline County, predominantly Bryant, over into Shannon Hills and Alexander. And good luck to you, R.J. Good to see you. And I know you got an event you got to slip out and go do a little emceeing for.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate you.
Glad to have you on. All right. Moving over to Judge Stephanie Cassidy. And you are already a sitting judge. So why don't you tell folks what you do now and just a little bit about yourself to the comfort level you feel like sharing.
Sure. Thank you, Senator Hammer, for having me on here. I certainly appreciate it. I am Judge Stephanie Cassidy. I asked the voters to elect me district judge, and for almost 10 years, I've been serving as a district judge. District judges handle a variety of cases. Right now, I do all of the civil cases that are on the district court level. I do the small claims cases. For 8 years, I did the orders of protection, which are circuit level cases. I handle all of the uncontested adoptions for our county. And then I have a large criminal docket that we process through, several days a week. and then I handle various cities, state police cases, highway patrol cases.
It's been 10 years.
Yeah,
It don't seem that long, man.
it's been a while.
It does not seem that long at all. And for those of you that are watching on Facebook, her husband, Ken, is sitting beside her, who also is a judge. And you are what kind of judge?
Well, I'm a circuit judge, and I am, now that we've had a couple new judges get elected, I'm the second most senior judge down there, circuit judge. The third most senior judge, because Deputy Cassidy and Judge Robert Hirschfeld, and then me.
Okay. So you're under Stephanie?
Well, for seniority.
Every purpose,
For-
Senator. Yes, every purpose. Yes. And I'll tell you a funny story about that. So, of course, Caleb, first
Mhm.
remembers Ken as the elected prosecutor in Saline County. He really doesn't remember a time when Mom wasn't a judge. And one night I was getting him ready for bed, and he had gotten out of the bath, and he was being real sweet, and kind of patting my arm. And he said, "Mom, can men be judges?" And I think there had been some talk about Ken maybe wanting to, do that and that being a future goal for him. And I said, "Well, yeah, buddy, they can.
Yeah.
They can."
Every now and then there's a couple of little-
That's just like husbands can be state senators if their wives tell them they can
That's
be.
right.
So, we understand the value of the woman and the power of the woman.
Absolutely.
We totally get it. So, all right. So being a judge for 10 years, and that's what I call variety as far as what you have jurisdiction over and what you've had to hear cases on, because you were going through a long list of things. And I mean, that's a lot of variety of different subject issues that you deal with. But you're running for the Court of Appeals, right?
Right.
So give people an idea, first of all, geographically, what area does that cover that
Okay.
you would have authority over?
So if you live in Pulaski, Perry, or Saline, I'm going to be on your ballot in May. Now, the Court of Appeals has 12 judges, and they hear cases from all over. So I would say, people should be interested in my race, even if it isn't their county where they live, if that makes sense. Because once you're on the Court of Appeals, you get cases from all over the state.
Okay. And do all 12, and I'm asking because I don't know. Okay. So all 12 judges hear all the cases, or they just have cases assigned to them to hear that are from all over the state?
They have cases assigned to them to hear that are from all over the state, and they serve the judges serve on panels.
Okay.
So they're 3-judge panels. Those panels turn over monthly. They're randomly assigned to these panels, and then they'll get the cases.
So you don't know really what case you're going to get. So with your background of what you have heard, could be beneficial in hearing those cases that would now come through the appeals court
Oh,
because of your
absolutely.
previous experience.
And a third of the cases, roughly a third, are criminal cases. So prior to being elected as a judge, I served as a deputy prosecutor. And then over the course of these almost 10 years as a judge, I've had a large criminal caseload. So
Okay.
those are, that's real experience. I also served as an attorney for the state, where I handled the dependency neglect cases, the foster care cases.
Mhm.
That's another set of cases that typically goes to the Court of Appeals. And then, like I said, I handle all of the civil cases on the district court level, and the other portion of the cases are civil in some nature. So
Okay. So what cases, out of what courts would you be hearing cases from? If you're the Court of Appeals, where would you be hearing cases from? All the courts below, or what? Just Educate me.
Circuit Court appeals
Okay.
would then go up to the Court of Appeals level. And I've got another joke for you. I'll
Okay.
test it out on you. Tell me if it's funny. So Court of Appeals judges, their main function is to tell circuit judges whether they've messed up or they've done it right.
I see it coming.
I'm gonna tell you right now, I've got like 15 years experience doing that. Of course, he hadn't been a judge the whole time, but I've been telling him
He's
a
been
long
messing
time
up.
whether he's messing up or not.
She might be the best in the world.
At telling you that?
Yeah, she's great.
Uniquely qualified to tell circuit judges whether they've done it right or not.
So,
Good at that.
so who do you appeal to, Ken?
I'm left without options at home. I have a boss. I have 2 bosses at home, and like I said, I don't I don't have any appeals at home. It just goes how it is.
When the gavel comes down,
Right.
the discussion's over.
I'm
So,
somewhere in line with the Chihuahuas.
okay. Well, you better stay on their good side because
Right.
I do know people that love dogs more than they do their human
Got to be nice to
counterparts.
the
So,
Chihuahuas.
yeah. All right. So, what do you see some of the challenges? And I know there are things that we can talk about and can't talk about because you are a neutral party. Okay. So what do you see some of the challenges that you will be faced with as an appeals judge coming in?
Well, I think for judges right now, across the board, a challenge is just we get more attention. In my mind, we get more attention than we have gotten. I remember when I first got elected, I don't feel like judges got a whole lot of attention. And now, and I think it's important that we get attention. I think it is very important that people care and pay attention to who their judges are and who they elect as judges. I think people are more actively involved in caring about who the candidates are than they ever have been. And with that attention, I think you just always have to be mindful that you need to conduct yourself in a way that reflects well on the judiciary and always, act like a judge, I guess is a simple way to put it. And talking about challenges, and one thing that I always strive to do as a judge, a lot of cases come in front of me, and I've heard thousands and thousands of all the different types of cases that I do. Each case is an individual case, and each case has people. And to those people, that's the most important case that I'll ever hear. That might be the only case they're involved in. It's certainly the most important case to them. If their mom or their grandma is back there, it's the most important case to that person. And I think the experience that I have has allowed me to see the impact that a judge's decision has on individual people. And I think a good judge is always mindful of the fact that what they're deciding is going to deeply impact the people that are in front of you.
As a legislator, we make decisions regarding laws that are going to impact people, but I will tell you that I've had a degree of compassion for judges because the decisions that you have to make, driven by the letter of the law, set aside the emotions, set aside the personality, set a lot of other things that, might play to the emotions, and have to make a ruling or a determination that although it's the right determination, that people aren't going to be happy with it, number one. Number two, it may adversely affect, their life. Not that you as a judge would have done anything, but if that's the way the law is written, that's the way you've got to rule.
That's right.
And I've always, of course, I go back to where judgeships got set up, and that's in the Bible when Moses set up the system, that it would be a difficult thing to be a judge, seeing some of the things that you see, the worst of people's life, sometimes the best of people's lives, but then having to make decisions that are directly going to impact people's lives, and 50% are going to be happy and 50% are not going to be happy, and then go home at the end of the day to your family and try to separate yourself from what you had to do, throughout the day.
Right. And I think it's just critical that you always realize that, and that it's always on your mind that that's the case, because I think that is how you take yourself to make a good decision. And what you were talking about the law, now, judges kind of have an out because the law is the law, and we're there to take the facts and apply that law. And I get to send them to Senator Hammer if they want the law to be changed, because that isn't my job.
And that's the point I want to bring up too. Judges have earned a reputation, right or wrong, fair or not fair, the perception of ruling from the bench or making laws from the bench. Speak to that subject.
Well, when I campaigned initially, it was a contested race, and I went around speaking to voters, talking to voters, and one of the things that I promised them was that I would respect the Constitution and that I would follow the law and that I would treat the people that came in front of me with fairness and respect. And I feel like I've done all those things, Senator. And I understand. And of course, I'm on Facebook and I see the news and I read and I know some of the things that you're alluding to. But for me personally, I don't feel like I've ever put myself in that position. And I made a promise when I campaigned and when I asked the voters to trust me with the responsibility that they've trusted me with. And I feel like I've honored the promises that I made.
What do you think a judge has to have within him or herself to be able to make a ruling and it not be driven by ulterior motives that maybe at the time it pushes the envelope? You know, one of the issues that is talked about are judges that are ruling from the bench, and it would give the appearance, again, real or false, would give the appearance that they are injecting their own personal belief, even with the letter of the law there, that they're injecting their own personal belief into their ruling. Subsequently, we know that would probably get appealed to a higher court and it would be straightened out. But how does a judge keep from a good judge? How does a good judge who's conscientious, moral values, all that good stuff, keep from interjecting or injecting their personal feelings or opinions into a determination or ruling?
Well, as you think about what is a good judge and who are good judges that judges should never be driven by a result, a certain result, or a certain outcome. So as you approach an individual case, the wrong approach would be to begin looking at that case and those facts, wanting to achieve a certain result, if that makes sense. As a judge, you're supposed to listen to the facts. You're supposed to put those facts together. You're supposed to piece those together. You're supposed to have a picture of what happened, and then you're supposed to take the applicable law and you're supposed to make a decision. And the decision that you make has to be a decision that you make after you've heard all that. It can't be a decision. It should not ever be a decision that you thought of on the front end. Because again, we're just not supposed to base what we do on a certain result that we're looking to achieve.
You don't have to answer this question if you don't want to, but I'll ask it. But I'm going to give you the exit out.
Okay.
You think judges ought to have to declare their political party or remain bipartisan?
Boy,
Nonpartisan.
I think that there is
No, I said bi. I'm sorry.
nonpartisan.
Sorry.
You know,
Straightened out by the judge. Thank you.
Ken, do you have an opinion on that?
Well, I was the elected prosecutor.
A little closer to the mic there.
I was the elected prosecutor in 2006, and at that time we were political. We had political parties. I was the elected Republican prosecutor. After I can't remember if it's 1 or 2 terms as prosecutor, the legislature or we passed certain measures that made prosecutors nonpartisan, and it was a little period of adjustment. But I certainly think that judges should not be identified with the political party. Judges are supposed to be able to apply the law to the facts, and not appear biased at all when the people come in front of them. It's I understand the reasoning why we're nonpartisan.
What do you think if you get a judge, let Ken and me talk for a second. If you get a judge that is, it would appear anyway on the surface, and a lot of people, all they know is what they read in the newspaper, and that's not the full story. Okay. So it would appear though that there are judges that rule from a particular flavor or from a particular, philosophical, religious, political view. Mm-hmm. What's the process, in your opinion, for straightening that out? Should it be straightened out? Let time straighten it out, or
Well, the process for somebody, in a sense, that's not doing the job that they're supposed to do, just like the process for what it is for you or other legislators, uh, we're subject to being voted back in uh, the next the next election. If a judge is biased for any reason or has any kind of bias and is demonstrating it in court, the situation should be, that judge will have an opponent and face the voters at the next election. Uh, that's the solution for that type of problem. Uh, you know, if a judge is doing his job or her job, uh, you won't ideally know that they're a Republican or Democrat or whatever after the fact. I think you can look at, Judge Roberts, recent, I don't know how long ago it was. It was fairly recently. Said, "Look, we don't have Republican judges. We don't have Trump-appointed judges. We don't have, we're not Obama judges. We're the Supreme Court." And he's talking about after, of course, they were appointed. And I think what he's pointing to, and I think even for the rancor that is apparent in today's politics and particularly in DC politics, you can look and see, and people will point out decisions that, even Trump appointees, Gorsuch and such, have made since then, that would say, where people would say, "Oh, that's not in line with what I expected him to do, or I expected her to do," and I think that's the point of a judge that is doing what they should do. They're not necessarily predictable by all parties all the time. They're applying the law as they see it at that time. Gorsuch and Kavanaugh have already made certain decisions that, they're appointed. The president that appointed them has gone off and said, "Well, I can't believe they did that." Well, I think that's how it's supposed to work. At some point, they divorce themselves from, if they had a political past, if they had a political party past, which obviously some of these folks do, or they wouldn't have been appointed, obviously, and that's how it's worked in this administration, previous administrations. But if they're up there doing it how they're supposed to do it, they're going to surprise folks that appointed them at some point.
they're on an island.
They're supposed to just look at the facts and apply the law. Now, everybody has their experiences. Everybody has, in the type of cases that we do. It's because I was the prosecutor for so long. When I came into circuit court, I had been assigned 80% of the divorces because I couldn't have criminal cases come to me because I had filed all those criminal cases as prosecutor. My signature was on them. So I've been doing the divorce court at a high rate for these first couple of years of being judge. So you take what's called judicial notice. You take judicial notice of certain things. You apply not how you want things to go, but how things go.
Okay. I got 3 minutes left, Stephanie. Here's the last question. I'm a member of the legislative branch. You got the administrative branch, obviously the governor. You're the judicial branch. What's your ideas of how we all work together to get a good finished product and a good final outcome for the people of Arkansas, being that that you and I would represent different branches?
Well, Senator, I think just always being mindful of what it is your job is and what it is you're there to do. And we talked about, from the judicial standpoint, not approaching a case knowing that you want a certain result. I think from your perspective as a legislator, you want to make sure that the laws that you are trying to pass and the laws that you're pushing, conform with the Constitution. And I think, we all do our part. And then certainly, communication. Over the years, you and I have had lots of conversations. I I live in one of your counties. We've known each other for a long time, and we've had many conversations about a law or a proposed law or how it might impact the citizens that we both know and serve. And I think that's important too, just an open dialogue, talking to one another.
Well, usually if there's good communication lines, you prevent a lot of problems down the road if you're all looking for the same goal and same outcome, and that is what's best for our Kansans, that they can get a fair and speedy trial
Right.
whenever they have to get before a judge.
Right. We all need to do the best we can and always give it our best.
Okay. One little thing I noticed here too is that you were first elected in 2012. You're the first female state court judge in Saline County.
Yes, sir.
You got quite the honor there.
I'm proud of that.
Would you be the first female judge elected to the Court of Appeals?
I could not find a female Court of Appeals judge from our district.
From our district.
Now,
Okay.
our district has changed over time and
Right.
hasn't always been Pulaski, Perry, and Saline, but my goal is I do believe it would be the first from the district as it is drawn. Well, and Judge Rita Gruber, talking about Saline County, no Saline County judge has been elected to the Court of Appeals
Okay.
that I could find. Now, Rita Gruber, she's a Pulaski County judge.
Right.
She's on the Court of Appeals.
Okay.
My hope would be to join her up there.
All right. Sweet. All right. You've been listening to the Kim Hammer Show. My guest this second half hour, Judge Stephanie Cassidy, who is running for the Court of Appeals. And that election is coming up on May.
Early voting starts May 9th, and the election is May 24th.
So get it on your calendar. Make sure you get out to vote. It's a sacred right that somebody has died and paid for in order for you to have that privilege to get out and vote. So make sure that you get out and vote May 24th. And she's been joined by her husband, /bodyguard, /judge, Ken Casady, both personal friends. Glad to have you on the show today, and good luck to both of y'all. Hope you have a great rest of Saturday, as well as the rest of y'all that are listening. Remember, you can go up to the KimHammerShow.com to get a replay of this and just share it with your friends if you would. Have a great Saturday.